Hey everybody, welcome back. Lizzy Albright, it's all Lizzy Albright, and guess what happens on this next chapter? We get to visit Lizzy again.
Yay, she's back.
Yeah, she's back, and we last left her flying through the tunnel of stars with the twinkling lights coming back, and she took a little nap.
Yeah, and now we get to rediscover where she's at in the story.
Yep, where she's at in the story, and then we'll talk about it right after we finish this. Chapter 14. Lizzy felt a soft mist brushing her face and slowly opened her eyes. She realized she must have fallen asleep. As she regained awareness, it became evident that she had not been dreaming and was indeed flying through the air on the back of a goose, with McDougal snuggled up next to her. Although it was no longer dark, Lizzy couldn't see anything other than the goose and McDougal. It was as if they were floating through a heavy purple fog. Purple? She mused. She straightened up, took a deep breath, and then noticed that the purple mist was slowly changing to blue. Surely her eyes were playing tricks on her. She shut her eyes tight and then opened them wide, hoping to bring something, anything, into focus. This time when she opened her eyes, the mist was green. Gretta felt Lizzy shift on her feathery back and asked, "Did you have a good rest?" I think so," Lizzy said, gazing into the void of ever-changing color. "How long have I been asleep?" "Most of the night," said Gretta. "I was just about to wake you. We're almost there."
"It's about time," yawned McDougal as he stretched out his legs. "I'll not be a-wanting anything to do with ony tomfoolery."
Lizzy scratched McDougal's head.
"It's all right, McDou. I'm sure it will all make sense soon enough."
"Ugh, no soon enough for me, lass," McDougal huffed.
"Gretta, why is it so foggy, and why is everything so—" She was just about to say yellow when she was suddenly bathed in orange. Colorful?" Lizzy asked slowly. "It's foggy because we are passing down through a rainbow cloud. Isn't it beautiful?"
As confused as Lizzy was, she agreed.
"What's a rainbow cloud?" "Sometimes, after a soft morning rain, the rising sun makes a rainbow. When the rainbow passes through a cloud, it makes a rainbow cloud. We are flying inside of a rainbow cloud." "Wow," said Lizzy. "I didn't know you could be inside of a rainbow."
Gretta finally dropped below the cloud, and Lizzy saw a magnificent sun-drenched landscape. There was a range of snow-capped mountains in the distance on her left, and she could see a large, sparkling sea off to the right. There were rivers, forests, lakes, hills. Below, she saw a patchwork of farms with fields that were outlined with fences made of stacked stones. Now Lizzy could see how the rainbow ascended, passed through the cloud, and reached down and touched the horizon on the other side. The rainbow reminded her of stories that she had been told about leprechauns and their treasures. Of course, she knew that leprechauns were little make-believe magical creatures, but if she could fly on a goose through a rainbow cloud, it might just be possible to find a pot of gold. Hillsides were dotted with little puffs of white that Lizzy determined to be sheep. She looked more closely, hoping to find a black sheep, but she didn't spot one. She found a road and followed it into the distance. "Wow," said Lizzy. "Look at that." Up ahead was a city perched on a finger of land that rose upward and jutted out into the sea. The towering cliffs below the city were being violently battered by crashing waves. "Is that where we're going?" asked Lizzy. "That, my dear, is Ansa, the royal city of our beloved Aller. Our final destination is just on the other side of the city." Lizzy whispered to herself, "Enza, Aller." Though these names were unfamiliar, she thought they were beautiful. She slowly and deliberately repeated them again. "Enza,
Allaire. If Ansa is a city, is Allaire a state, like Kansas?
Kansas, replied MacDougall. Ah, lass, I'm fearful to tell ye, but I don't think we're in Kansas any more.
Gretta chuckled. Allaire is our kingdom, our country. Everything you see around you is part of Allaire. I've never heard of Allaire. Is it part of Europe? Lizzy queried. Gretta hesitated. Allaire is not part of anything. Allaire is, well, Allaire is here. Lizzy's face contorted into a confused expression. Even though she wasn't sure about where here was, she decided to hold off on more questions until later. We are getting close to the city. You should hide as best as you can, Princess. Tuck yourself back under my feathers. Lizzy did as she was told, but she situated herself so that she could still see the sights below. She pulled her cloak close. Though they were flying high over the city, there was still plenty to see. Ansa filled the entire surface of the peninsula. Stone buildings with red clay roofs lined the cobblestone streets. Chimneys were puffing up columns of delicate smoke that dissipated and vanished. Every now and then, Lizzy thought she caught a whiff of freshly baked bread wafting up from below. Do you smell the truffles? Asked Gretta. Wattles? Asked Lizzy. Gretta laughed. Truffles! Truffles are yummy. You'll be having one soon enough.
Aye, my stomach is a-knocking on my backbone. I sure hope we'll be eating pretty soon, MacDougall chimed in.
Indeed you will, Mr. MacDougall. Indeed you will, replied Gretta. People, or what Lizzy perceived to be people, were scurrying about through the city. Lizzy expected to see cars, but there weren't any. Instead, there were vehicles of some sort that didn't look like anything she had ever seen before. From her vantage point, high above the city, she couldn't make out the finer details, but they looked fun to ride. Most of the larger streets in Ansa flowed toward the center, where a series of buildings wrapped around a large, circular area. Inside the hub was a large open-air structure with terrace seating that Lizzy suspected was a sports stadium or amphitheater. She wondered if the Beatles had ever given a concert there. The largest buildings in the city were situated in an area that was surrounded by a stone wall. The tallest building had a copper-topped dome that age and exposure had coated with a green patina. Another building had an expanse of steps that led up to a row of columns supporting its elaborate pediment. The tip of the peninsula was cut off from the rest of the city by a large wall that spanned the entire escarpment. The wall had an enormous main gate with 2 guard towers. Large, faded, yellow and black banners hung from the towers. Smaller towers were spaced along the rampart, and their tattered flags fluttered in the breeze. Lizzy decided that yellow and black must be the official royal colors. Inside the main gate was a smaller courtyard lined with several small buildings, stables, and sheds. Lizzy noticed a few people and animals, but they weren't moving. Then she realized they were statues. This interior courtyard lay at the foot of a majestic castle that triumphantly sat on top of the cliffs at the very end of the escarpment. It's like a fairy tale, said Lizzy. It is beautiful, isn't it? Replied Gretta. I hope we're going there. I want to see it. We are, but not today. Soon Ansa was behind them, and Gretta was flying over a forest. They were so close to the tops of the trees that Lizzy felt as if she could reach out and touch them. The trees abruptly stopped, and they were instantly flying over a large lake. Gretta swooped down and was skimming over the surface of the water. It appeared to Lizzy that Gretta was headed to a large grassy bank just up ahead. We're almost there. Prepare to land, Gretta called back to the 2 passengers. How do I prepare to... Oh, ouch, Lizzy exclaimed. Gretta was very good at landing on water, but when attempting a ground landing, the result was more like a skipping rock than a smooth glider. She hit the ground with a thud, bounced, and then became airborne again. MacDougall fell from Lizzy's arms to the ground. "Michty me! Hing on, lass!" he called to Lizzy, chasing after the 2.
Several bounces later, Gretta finally got her feet on the ground. Her momentum kept her running several paces beyond the distance she had calculated. She crashed into the reeds on the edge of the lake. Lizzy tumbled off Gretta's back and rolled right into the shallow, murky water. Stunned and soaked, she sat upright. Several geese were racing toward her, shouting out a cacophony of indecipherable exclamations. "Are you all right, Princess?" a plump, older-looking goose wearing glasses called out. "I think so," Lizzy said cautiously. She tried to comprehend that she was conversing with yet another goose, except this one was normal size, unlike Gretta, who was... Lizzy looked at Gretta, who was now back to being the size of a normal goose. "What's happening?" Lizzy thought. MacDougall leapt into the water and paddled over to Lizzy.
"Come on, lass, let's get you out of this mingin' loch. You're drookit through and through."
Although he could tell Lizzy was managing just fine on her own, he felt it was his duty to protect her. He thought his heroic actions would at least prove to the geese just how much he intended to keep her safe at all costs. The old goose turned to the two younger geese and said, "Molly, help the princess out of the lake. Gabby, get a fire going and be quick about it. We must get her dried and warm." Lizzy stood up and was removing her now very heavy, waterlogged cloak. Molly went to assist Lizzy, but Gabby, having not heard a word, stood frozen, transfixed on Lizzy. She was staring at a girl who, up until now, she knew only as a myth. And yet, here she was, standing right before her very eyes. "Gabby!" the old goose shouted abruptly. Gabby was jolted from her trance. "Yes, ma'am?" "Get a fire started. Hurry," she repeated. "Oh, goodness, yes, of course. Right away." As Gabby waddled away, her heart raced with joy, and she began to sing. "The princess is here. She's just as they said, with freckles and curly red hair on her head. Let me help you, princess." The young goose went to help Lizzy out of the lake. Lizzy grabbed her extended wing and came on shore. "I'm Molly," the goose said with a rather shy but giggly smile, and then she bowed deeply. "Thank you, Molly." Lizzy wasn't sure why Molly was bowing, but she thought it must be some kind of customary greeting. Without thinking, Lizzy awkwardly bowed back and said, "Pleased to meet you, Molly."
"I dinna ken who a goose can be so houndless," said MacDougall, vigorously shaking off his coat.
"Calm down, MacDoo. I'm okay. Would you mind helping gather sticks for the fire?"
"Aye, lass, I'll fetch ye sticks."
MacDougall, who happened to be very good at fetching sticks, scampered away. Lizzy looked at Molly. "I'm so sorry about MacDoo. He'll calm down soon enough. He means well." "No need to apologize, Princess. He's your guardian. I wouldn't expect him to do anything less." Lizzy had never thought of MacDougall as a guardian, but then it dawned on her that he had always been protective of her. "Follow me, Princess. Let's get you out of that wet tunic," said the older goose with glasses. "I'll take your cloak," said Gretta, who had been plucking bits of reeds, twigs, and grass from her feathers. Lizzy followed the three geese down a path that more resembled a tunnel than a path. The passage led through a dense thicket of brush and was covered by a canopy of tangled vines. Lizzy was barefooted, but the ground was soft. She was glad there were no stickers like the ones she often stepped on when playing barefoot in Glassford Park. A voice not too far away was singing. "The princess is here. The timing is right. The curse will be broken on midwinter's night." The little procession soon came to a clearing that wrapped around the sides of a narrow inlet that flowed in from the lake. The star grass and tweedle reeds were trimmed short and kept well maintained. Inside the clearing were 4 of the tiniest, happiest-looking houses that Lizzy had ever seen. Each house faced the water and was painted in the most wonderful colors, each one different from the other. The siding was made from wooden planks that were painted in 2 different colors that alternated to create cheerful horizontal stripes. Straw thatching adorned each roof, and a little black smokestack nested on top. Window boxes were bursting with fragrant blossoms. Bumbleberry trees stood nearby, and their craggy branches drooped over the housetops. Lizzy thought they looked like the spindly arms of an old witch who was about to reach down and pluck the little houses right out of the ground. The 4 houses were perched on poles. Each house had a colorful door with a small basket sitting beside it and a bundle of twigs with brightly colored ribbons hanging over the lintel. Each porch had a wooden ramp that extended down to the ground. "Come on, Princess," said Gabby with a lilt, waddling down the ramp to meet her. "Welcome to Fiddler's Cove." Lizzy assumed she was the source of the singing she had heard. "Let's get you inside so you can dry off and warm up." The goose gestured with her wing for Lizzy to follow. Lizzy started up the ramp, but then suddenly stopped. "What's wrong, Princess?" Lizzy was looking at a goose-sized house with a red, goose-sized door. She was far too big, or rather the house was far too small for her to go inside. "Well, I don't think I can fit through the door." "Don't be silly. Of course you can," said Gabby, giving Molly a wink. Molly sneezed. Just as Lizzy turned to say Gesundheit, there was a loud pop that made her jump. Lizzy saw one of Molly's tail feathers shoot up like a rocket and burst into a cloud of purple sparkles that floated down over the entire area. "Oh dear, excuse me," said Molly. "What was that? Are you all right?" asked Lizzy. "It's nothing at all. Excuse me," Molly chuckled, passing off the incident as if it were a common occurrence. Gretta called out, "That sort of thing happens when Molly gets excited. It's noisy, but it's harmless. Come on now, let's get on inside." Lizzy shrugged, turned, and continued walking up the ramp. "Are you okay, lass? What was that noise?" It was McDougal. He had heard the explosion, dropped the sticks he had collected, and ran to see if Lizzy was hurt. "One of Molly's feathers exploded, Mr. McDougal. There's nothing to worry about. It was loud, but everything's just fine," said Gretta, trying to put his mind at ease. McDougal huffed. "I dinna ken what all the ruckus is aboot, but I've already telt ye. I'll not be putting up with ony tomfoolery." He turned to Lizzy. "Are you sure you're all right, missy?" "I'm fine. Really I am." McDougal turned and trotted off to reclaim the sticks he had left behind. Gretta shot a stern glance at Molly, who shrugged in reply, as if to say, "I'm sorry." Gabby opened the door, and she and Lizzy went into the house. "First things first, Princess. Here's a dry tunic that I hope will fit you. You can change in that room over there," Gabby said, pointing to a door. "We'll be in the parlor when you're ready. The truffles are almost done." Lizzy sniffed the air and recognized the scent. It was the same sweet smell of baked bread she had experienced while flying over Ansa. Her belly rumbled. She hadn't realized how hungry she was. She also hadn't realized how cold she had been until she felt the warmth of the fire in the fireplace. She took the folded bundle and went to change. One by one, the other 3 geese made their way inside.
Yay! I love this. The music that it inspires in your head when you're flying on Gretta and going through the tunnel of stars, and the rainbow and the rainbow cloud, and just the million visions that this chapter describes are fantastic in flight. Love that.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that you just mentioned, going through the rainbow cloud, there are numerous, and I don't know how many to be honest, but there are numerous references throughout the book of things that are either multicolored or change colors. And that even goes back to the silver Christmas tree, the aluminum Christmas tree changing colors. But no, you're talking about the music. We haven't mentioned the music that I start this with, and somebody did ask. So the music that you hear at the beginning and the end of all this, these little vid pods, is a song called Northern Lights, and I wrote it, and it's on my Christmas in a Small Town CD. It has the instrument that you hear at the beginning is called a duduk, which is an Armenian instrument. And it's the music you would have heard in the movie The Gladiator, very, very Eastern sounding. And then it's full orchestra, so if you haven't ever checked that out, check that out. But yeah, so Kat's the one that said, hey, we have to use that music for the Tunnel of Stars.
Yes, love it. It was perfect. It is perfect for that and just for the theme of the book, in my opinion. I love that we're opening and closing these little vid pods with that music. It's fun.
Thank you. Well, so Lizzy gets to fly over Ansa, and she gets to see just kind of over a bird's eye view, so to speak, of the town that we've learned a little bit about in the previous chapter.
And we learned how to pronounce Aller.
Aller. That's right. And then we get to meet not only just Gretta, but there's 3 other geese, and there's Gabby, and there's Gertie, and there's Molly. So go ahead and tell them why we have Molly. Let's be blatant about why Molly's in the story.
Oh, are we going to confess now?
Yes, of course.
Oh, that's too funny. Well, many of you that know Ricky and I know that our favorite musical is Hamilton, and we've both gone multiple times to see it. And just one of the comic relief parts in the opening number with the Schuyler sisters is they're introducing themselves, and then all of a sudden, and Peggy, and she's
Angelica,
Eliza, and Peggy. Yeah, so we had to have an Aunt Peggy.
Yeah, so we have Greta, Gabby, Gertie,
and Molly.
So, yeah, that's a little secret thing that's in the book for everybody.
We totally stole that.
And I have to admit, while I have enjoyed reading the book, the reason I would not do the professional version of the Audible or whatever we end up doing is because I do not have a Scottish brogue. And now that McDougall is having to speak more, I will say all of my apologies. You can laugh at me all you want, but it is just me doing my best to try to do the brogue. And it's been really great to have wonderful Margaret Bow over in Edinburgh giving me guidance on the correct brogue. So it's as authentic as it gets as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I love that you have gone that far to try to get it right. I think that's awesome.
All right, everybody, I hope you've enjoyed this chapter. We're going to have a little more time with Lizzy and the geese when we come back in the next chapter. So I hope you're having fun, and we'll see you the next time you're here.